Well, here's Pionex Exchange with their 𝗀𝗵𝗃 futures grid bots. So I'm just going to come in here now. You can click on futures at the top, futures bot, and over here on the right, a menu will open up, and we're going to click on the 𝗀𝗵𝗃 futures grid. Now, I'm just going to close this down here. This is already assuming that you've actually sent some Bitcoin over to your Pionex exchange. So we're going to move ahead, assuming you've already got a balance of Bitcoin in here. So by choosing a Bitcoin 𝗀𝗵𝗃 perpetual futures bot, it's going to be a long bot because of where we are in the market, where the trend is going, and what our opportunities are here. But we've got to choose a low price of the range and a high price of the range. Now, considering that we've only just hit an all-time high just yesterday or 2 days ago, we're going to have to kind of go above the range high and estimate where it is that you can actually put the top of the grid at. Now, the tool I'm going to use to do that is the Fibonacci retracement tool, but I'll show you how I use it so that I can just sort of pinpoint a top of the range so that we can set our actual number of grids and using the investment that we've got as well. So let me just go over here first, and I will click on just down here where it says the trading view chart. There's a little arrow that opens up the drawing tools. And I'm also going to go over to the 4-hour chart because I want to have a look. Oh, this actual volume indicator down the bottom, the way to get out of that is just double click in the main canvas above, and that'll just delete that off there. So I'm just going to scroll back here and have a look at what perhaps the bottom of my range is going to be. Now I could go right down here to 73. That was in April, and the likelihood of that coming back now, it just puts too many grid lines too low for no reason. So you can see here, if I actually mark on a trend line, this is a very clear upward trend. So the chances of coming back this low is pretty slim, but we are not here to just set and forget bots. It will actually be something that you will be looking at. So what I'm going to do here is actually bring it up to around here and just have a quick look. That's at 98. But even then, it didn't even come back to that. So I might even go to this one up here. Okay, so that there being still a trend line, even though it sort of popped out the bottom there, I guess we can do the trend line this way. And, perhaps even it could come back to around this, 115 or 16 and sort of follow the trend line along. But I'm thinking that my lower part of the range is going to be around 105. So let me just put 105 in there. Don't forget the zeros. And I will delete this tool. And now I'm going to use another tool. But this time I'm going to take it from the low that it was at in April. Using the Fibonacci tool here, you can actually see it's called Fib retracement. There's also the trend-based Fib extension. I can show you both. So I'm going to go from the all-time high that just occurred down to sort of the bottom of this time in April. And let's have a look at where the numbers show up here. So Fibonacci numbers are very interesting. It's part of universal mathematics based off. You can read more about Fibonacci. Perhaps I'll have a video one day about it. But I could do the grid at, around this mark, maybe just under it, and say, all right, let's say we're going to, aim to reach 150,000. I'm going to delete that tool now, and let's have a look and see what the trend-based one does. So with this tool, you can do the same thing, go from the bottom to the top, but you do need to bring it back. And if we even just bring it back to where it is right now, then looking at what we were looking at before at the 150, that's bringing it around just above the 0.618. Now, these are sort of magical numbers if you're not aware of Fibonacci tools. Again, we can talk about that another time. But the 618 is an interesting one. You could even just go to the 0.5, which would be 140,000. So it depends on how tight you want the grid to be. But I'm going to test out between 140 and 150, because even if Bitcoin goes crazy and goes above that, then we can always just stop the bot and start it again. So the main thing is over here, I want to have a look and see if we're going to be using, let's say 200 grids. I'm looking for the highest profit per grid. So we might have to go a little bit lower. It's 0.25 to 0.39. That's not too bad. But maybe if I lower the high price here, and we'll go with definitely not that. We're liking the higher grid, I think. So let's stick with that. You could even probably go up to 160 if you want. Let's check and see what that does. Start with 200, but then go down and look at 150 grid lines and even 100 grid lines. Now I'm liking the look of the 100 grid lines better at the 105 to 160 grid. I can just double check the 150 there, but I don't see, there we go. That's not bad either. I think we'll go with the 150 and then reassess as we get to that point. So again, using this, we're going to be earning in Bitcoin, which will be accumulating your Bitcoin. So I've got a profit per grid that I'm happy with. On this one, it's definitely going to be a lot slower at 0.25. On some of the other coin pairs, you can get, sort of 0.5 up to 2% per grid line, depending on how many grids you have and how volatile the coins are. So now the investment here, I get the opportunity to choose what my leverage will be. So I can keep it at the 3x, or I could put it up and have a look at, say, 5x. But that's what's going to determine this will be the liquidation price. So my investment is going to be all the Bitcoin I have here, which is not much. It's probably only about, I don't know, $300 or $400 worth, something, say $350 worth at the moment. And the estimated liquidation price would be 83,000. I'm pretty happy with that. If I wanted to check on, say, 7x, it's 89,000. I'm not as comfortable with that. And I can go back down to, say, 4x, and it brings up 80,000. Now, the likelihood of getting back to 80,000, I believe, is pretty slim. But if I really want to cover my butt, let's have a look at 3x, 73,000. I honestly don't think Bitcoin's going to get back to 73,000 until the bear market. And that could even be around the lowest that it's going to get. So we play it safe and we go with 3x, or I'm feeling it's a pretty strong trend at the moment. I'm going to go for 5x. That's what I'm happy with. Now, if we just scroll down a little bit further, there is the option to do a trigger price. Now, considering if I come back over onto the 15-minute chart, I have to spread that out so you can see things again now. It's had a nice little retracement just from its all-time high the other day. So I'm pretty happy with where it's at, because I think this will be around the midway point of the grid. And I don't need to try and get it triggering lower than this. If I was starting the bot, say, up here, I might want to have my trigger price down at what this could have been here as a possible support level, but it broke through that support and created a new one here. So I don't need to do a trigger price. Not going to worry about any of these. We can set a take profit if you want to, and you can set a stop loss if you want to as well. But just make sure that your stop loss is outside of the bottom of your grid. So if we're saying that the bottom of the grid in this case is 105, and perhaps we could even up that and just see if it changes any of our details here. It brought it down a little bit, which is unusual, but I'm going to leave it at the 105. And yeah, happy with that. What else have we got here? Yeah, I'm not going to put a stop loss in because the liquidation price is so much lower, like it's $20,000 lower. I'm going to have plenty of time to have a look and see, where I can stop this out. So I can't even fit it on the screen. I have to scroll that much. But let's actually look at the ruler and say, okay, so from, say, 105 down to 83, it would need to get to 105 and then drop another 22%. And to get to 105 from where it is now, it would need to drop 10%. So we're looking at like nearly 35% drop down to get liquidated. We're not looking at liquidation, but you could certainly look at your stop loss as being, you know, at a higher price if you really wanted to sort of cover your butt. But at the moment, this is about playing with the current trend that's going up, and also making sure that you're coming in and checking these things so that you actually can see where you're at. Now, personally, until I see the true indication that we're hitting the absolute peak and things are going to start going down, I am very happy to let this run. And I really don't care if the bot would be high in the grid or if it would be low in the grid. To me, it's a bit like a win-win with the 𝗀𝗏 futures. So I'm pretty happy with the settings there. Hit create, just checking the parameters. So what it's going to do is actually, it's still going to use some USDT. So it's going to sell off a little bit of your Bitcoin to get the bot going. But it's holding some aside. So I've said, yep, take all the Bitcoin that I've got, but it's not going to start with that. And it's just going to, as it says here, investment 00292, but it's only going to put in 00165. So you've got a little bit of margin room there to play with as well. And you can always change your liquidation price by playing with your margin. Again, another video, we'll talk about that. So let's click on OK. Oh, we heard a ding in the background. And now we can scroll down here and click on that so that we can actually see our grids. Squeeze it up and you've got quite a high top of the range grid here and your low bottom of the range grid here. So it's got a lot of wiggle room there. We probably could have even had it down a bit less, but let's see how it goes. I'll report back on how it's, you know, performing. Obviously getting started, it's got some fees to get started with in there. Oh, I will talk about with doing futures or leveraged bots as this. So whether it's a 𝗀𝗏 literally just means I'm putting the coin up as collateral and I'm using that coin to grow more of that coin. The other style is a USDT grid bot. So it says here BTC USDT. And that means you need USDT to start the bot. You don't need any Bitcoin. It's just the USDT and you'll get paid out in USDT. So either way, there is going to be a funding fee that will be charged sort of roughly every 8 hours. That's because you're borrowing, you know, it's like I put in the equivalent of $300 or $400 worth of Bitcoin, but on a 5X, the whole entire bot is worth whatever it is, $1,200, $1,300. So I've borrowed as such that money. And it just means that there's more money in the trades, which means there's more profit, but the profit I get to keep. And the actual funding fee is how Pionex is making its money to be able to provide you all of this for free anyway. It's the same on all the exchanges actually with doing leverage trading, but sometimes the funding, it's not just a fee you're paying, sometimes it's a fee you'll be receiving, depending on how many shorts and longs are in the market at the time. So we'll keep you up to date with, you know, when we should be closing down this bot, taking profits, etc. Again, I'll just click on it and we'll have a look at these grids. But hopefully that is understood on what a 𝗀𝗏 futures bot is. The reason that I've done it is I have a bit of Bitcoin spare and I want to earn more Bitcoin instead of USDT for this particular bot. So any questions, ask in the comments below and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.